Nuevo encuentro finalmente en Buenos Aires, el señor Marky Ramone en su visita número 10.000. Welcome back.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pleasure to have you every time.
Always.
You were telling me about driving from Ezeiza to here, this hotel. And do you actually remember the first times you guys play here in Buenos Aires when people used to go all over to the airport and drive beside you and being all over the place?
Right, yeah. And there still are fans outside that I have to sign autographs, but it was just amazing. We didn't expect it when we got here, and then all of a sudden it was like a hard day's night.
Yeah, it was like a Ramonesmanía.
Yeah, yeah, like Beatlemania or something. But we were very, very happy.
And do you actually miss that?
Miss what?
People being that crazy over here?
We still are.
You do? You think?
Yeah.
You think so?
Yeah. You'll see tonight if you come to the show.
I'm gonna be there bad. I think that we kind of mature a little bit. Like we are like an older audience here in Buenos Aires. It used to be crazier. Younger?
There are a lot. The audience in Chile, the average age must have been 25 to 28 years old. So they're getting younger and younger, which is great. You know, like Gen Z and Gen X and all that stuff. You know, I don't. Just because you get older, I don't lose my enthusiasm over what I like. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah, but I meant not of age, but like we mature as people.
I don't. Maybe everybody else does. But now, you know, they come to the show, and that's what matters. Mm-hmm. You know, now a lot of the times we have to not let people know that easy where we're staying, mm-hmm. so they don't interrupt the people staying at the hotel. You know, because mm-hmm. they're here trying to sleep and trying to get together. You know, so, it's good that they wait for the show.
Yeah, I know. And is there any deeper meaning for you to do this nowadays besides playing the songs and doing what you always did? Is there something that actually means to you?
Well, Johnny, Joey, Deanie, and Tommy died too soon, too quick, and great songs. So I did 10 studio albums with them, and I like playing my style, my music, my way better than having to do other things. So being in the Ramones for 15 years and then having my own bands, I continue that style because I always say this, that the songs are too good not to be played. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the youth have discovered the Ramones, so they want to hear the songs too. So you go to them and you play the songs, and you all have a good time, crazy time.
You know what? Some people complain because there's Ramones T-shirts and Kiss T-shirts and Rolling Stones T-shirts that are actually being sold at any place. There's kids all over the world wearing T-shirts that they don't know what kind of T-shirts they are actually wearing, if you know what I mean.
Well, if they don't know who the Rolling Stones are, they must be from the planet Uranus. But no, you have a kid wearing a Ramones T-shirt. He might want to go, hey, let me hear the music. Mm-hmm. If you have a kid who has Ramones albums, he might want a T-shirt. So it works both ways, you know what I mean? But eventually they come around and realize it's all about the music.
I don't know what you think, but I don't know, 20 years ago, I believe, I don't know what you think, that nowadays people respect what guys like you are doing, because, as you've mentioned, most of the Ramones are dead. Many artists are dead nowadays because it's been too long.
Because of age.
Because of age.
Abuse, age, and, you know, just a lot of people have gotten cancer. A lot of people, you know, even in the sports field and stuff like that, you know, in any industry, you know, it's up to the individual how well he takes care of himself. You know, a lot of people have passed away, but if you look at their past, it caught up to them, you know, so.
Yeah, but I mean, actually, me, myself, 20 years ago, I was one that wanted you to do something besides the Ramones. And you did. You did the Intruders, for example.
But that was fun.
Yeah, I know. But it's like you had to come back to the Ramones because...
Well, I when they started dying, you know, they were my friends and bandmates. And there was no one else really left to continue with the way that I do, that I, you know, decided to do myself. So to me, that is the closest thing to my heart, is playing Ramones songs. That's my passion. I'm not going to compete with the Ramones. They're the Ramones. But I'll play their music and play the music we made and, you know, at least have that, you know. To me, that's important.
Because, you know, the ones that actually were there, like me, myself, we miss those songs, those bands, and there's a whole new generation, a couple of them that were never there, so yeah. They want to actually know what was it like.
Well, if they come tonight, they'll see.
And, you know, here in Argentina, and I believe all over the world it's the same, there are some tribute bands that are bigger than new bands.
Maybe because the tribute bands are playing better music than the newer bands.
Maybe, actually, I don't know.
Maybe they tried listening to the newer bands and they said, I like the older music better. It's, you know, it's up to the individual what they like. You know, I don't tell anyone, you know, nobody should tell anybody what to listen to, or, you know, what movies to watch, music to listen to. If you like some of the new stuff, great. You know, there's something for everybody. There's blues, there's jazz, there's rock, there's hard rock, there's metal, there's heavy metal, there's punk. There's so many things, you know, rock and roll. And, you know, a lot of the youth want to go back to an earlier time because they think that things are a lot better in the world. In music, in movies and the culture, things like that, you know. So they explore. They explore around. They go on the all the you know, Spotify's and the downloading things. So they discover things. I mean, I used to do that when I was a kid too. I used to go back to like Little Richard, Chuck Berry, Jerry Lee Lewis, Phil Spector sound. British Invasion, Beatles, The Who, The Kinks. So as a little boy, I mean, even like a Frank Sinatra song will come on, and he's great. You know, I'll listen to it because it's good music.
Is that the music that you were listening to while growing up?
No, not Frank Sinatra. My parents.
No, I mean the British Invasion.
Oh yeah, British Invasion.
Little Richard and Chuck Berry.
Richard, the Beatles, The Who, Jimi Hendrix. What else? I liked a lot of the jazz drummers, like Buddy Rich, Gene Krupa. You know, all of those great guys who played unbelievable. You know, and if you look at their equipment, it's really, really like backward. It's not like today, you know what I mean? And they had to play on that, and they did. You know, they managed. So, hats off to them.
But back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, rock and roll was still a new thing. It's been so long that nowadays it's been said, I actually don't agree, not yet at least, but it's been said that rock and roll is like jazz back then. It's coming of age.
That's great. I mean, if you want to compare it like that, fine, you know. But there are so many there are people who like jazz that they keep it alive, you know, because it's a great form of music, you know. Rock and roll will never die. But I mean, you know, you have these, because of the songs are so good, that they're catchy, they got great choruses, they have great verses, great players, and the songs have choruses that you remember, you know, that you could sing to, and, you know. So, you know, there's a lot, I love the blues too. A lot of good blues stuff, you know. And I did an album with a blues artist called Johnny Shines. And we did an album when I was 20. And he was already in his 50s. This was years ago. And it was a pleasure to play like blues like on a Buddy Guy album. You know, he was like a Buddy Guy, B.B. King, you know. He came from the Mississippi Delta in the state of Mississippi. You know, so that was good.
Where are you from?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So you were there in New York while this was actually becoming a thing. I mean, rock and roll, the New York scene. I mean.
Oh yeah, hanging in CBGBs. That's where we all met. Me, Richard Hell, Johnny Thunders, David Johansen, Dee Dee Ramone, Johnny Ramone, Joey Ramone. Who else? Guys from television, guys from the Dead Boys. You know, we all would meet there, and that was our hangout. You know, and then punk started.
And was it really that good to be there back then, or because it became stuff of legend?
It was good because we needed a place to play. A lot of club venue owners didn't want to play punk rock, but Hilly Crystal, the owner of CBGB's, said, okay, let's try it. We tried it, and the rest is history.
Yeah,
you know.
And do you go back to listening to old records?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I love Little Richard. I love. I think the Beatles are great. The Who are great. Jimi Hendrix was great because also they had great drummers. Jimi Hendrix's drummer, Mitch Mitchell. The Beatles, Ringo Starr. You know, all these guys were good. They were tight. They had a great style. And of course, Phil Spector's sound with Hal Blaine on the drums from the Wrecking Crew. Really good. He's on the most #1 hits out of any musician in rock and roll.
He does?
Yeah.
Yeah, he is.
Hal Blaine.
He was a session player?
He was Phil Spector's main drummer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you ever do session work?
No, I don't. If a band wanted me to do a song or two on their album and they were good, and I liked what I heard, I might consider it. But I don't go out looking to you know, do session work and stuff.
Okay.
You know.
Would you say that you live in the present? For example, when you sit at your drum kit and you're about to start a show, what is it that comes to your mind? You are living the present, you are all there, enjoying the moment.
You got to focus. You got to give it all you got. It's like a sport. What I do is like a sport. It really is like being an athlete. So I just gear up I get ready to go, I pump up, and I just go walk out there and know that I want to do a great show. I got to give it all I got, and that's what I do.
And what do you do to take care of yourself?
I bike ride, I play the drums 4 times a week for 2 hours in a studio back home when I'm not doing anything. I do a lot of walking. Nothing special. It's just, drumming is the exercise.
It is? Yeah. Is it hard for you nowadays?
No. The more you do it, the easier it is. One day your body will tell you it's time to stop. And when your body tells you that, you stop.
And do you ever think about it?
Not really. I just know that people eventually stop their occupation or what they're doing, and then they just chill out. They look back and they go, oh, I did my thing. I had a great time.
You think? Because I believe that artists don't want to do that. I mean, like...
Yeah, but when you see all the artists that, the problem is there's a lot of artists who have stopped 25 years ago. Then they have reunions, and most of them, they have all these lights to distract the audience looking at them, and they're not as good as they were when they were 25 years ago. But they do it, I guess, because they need the money, or because, whatever the reason is, it's just that they probably enjoy it. But you see it and the audience, and they know they're not as good as they were. But if they want to do it, that's great. Let them enjoy their moment.
I believe that nowadays that you have an audience. I mean, there's always going to be an audience that want to listen to the Ramones song played by one of the guys.
Yeah.
So you are going to be able to do this as far as you can.
There will be a time where I will stop. I don't feel it yet, but eventually, like everybody else, you say to yourself, well, it's time. You do that because when you stop at a certain age, you want to enjoy the rest of your life in good health. So, if you stop at 80, 82, you're getting older. You're getting old. How can you travel the world really in that condition, which a lot of people do, granted. But it's better to me, stop when your body is still vibrant, when it still has energy, so you can do the things you always wanted to do after you, played or did your life's work.
But you never know, because, for example, when you were a kid listening to Little Richard and Chuck Berry and gathering with the guys at the CBGBs and playing punk rock, Little Richard and Chuck Berry were still young.
Right.
And nobody knew back then what was it going to be like in 2023.
Right. But it's still going.
Yeah.
Music's still alive and still there.
What I mean, nowadays we are used to 80 years old guys playing live. Back then, we didn't.
Well, a lot of jazz players, a lot like you say, the jazz music, those guys started in the 30s and 40s, and they're still playing in the 1970s, 80s, and 1990s. So they were probably 25, 30 at that point, and then 40, 50 years later, they're 70, 75, 80. It's because they love playing the music, which is the main thing that hopefully keeps them going.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And even nowadays, I'm 54, and when I was a kid, 54 years old guys didn't dress like I do, and people didn't dress like you do nowadays, but now we do. We look younger than
that's how each generation is.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, that's how each generation is. Every generation wants to be different from the last generation. They want to go on their own. They want to do their own look, style, thing, this, that. But in the end, I think you end up before what you wanted to be, what you ended up being, before you kicked the bucket. You end up being what you were before you ended up, wearing the fancy clothes and this and that. You revert back being the person you were before you got into the music business or any kind of business.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen the latest Rolling Stones video. They are releasing a new album.
No, I didn't have time.
You didn't? There's a young lady with a young guy driving all over LA, and the Rolling Stones appear on what you guys call this...
Billboard?
Yeah, on billboards. And there's like every generation of the band playing live on those billboards.
Stones?
The Stones, yeah, like in the 60s and
every
70s. Every decade,
Yeah.
every era.
Every era.
And I believe that's a very good way to keep them young.
Well, it's a good way to keep them young, and it's good to show how you were 50, 55 years ago, but now is now. You know what I mean? You always have to show the band in the present, so when people come to the shows, they know what you like. I mean, it's nice to always think you're going to look like you're 25 years old, but that's not the way life is. Time is not on anybody's side. So, we do get older, and that's the way it's life,
Good thing about the Ramones and yourself is that you've always looked the same. Leather jacket and jeans.
Sneakers. I got to wear the, I tell you that, the Argentina team tonight, on the stage. So that should be fun.
You remember doing that back in the day with the Ramones? Because it became like every band that came here to Buenos Aires to play for the first time actually wore the Argentina t-shirt. It was like something bands did. You remember doing that?
I somebody brought it up to me, and we were in New York when the team won last year. We saw it, they saw it at the bar, TV, in the hotel. And, why don't you wear the shirt? Let's wear the shirt. So they wore the shirts. My two guitar players wore the shirts, Martin and Marcello, in New York. No, not New York. I think it was Philadelphia, and they wore them on the stage because they knew the team won. Mm-hmm. So I figured, all right, let me wear it tonight. It would be cool.
And do you care about soccer? Did you ever?
Now more than ever. In America you got baseball, football, basketball, and all that stuff. But soccer is a different kind of sport. It's nice to explore and discover new things. It's not easy. So I envy those who do things that aren't easy, that try to get better and better at what they do. That's important to me.
Yeah, I know that the States tried to, and it's becoming bigger now that Messi is actually playing the States. Yeah. It's over there, so there's a lot of people that know who he is, and he's friends with basketball players and hip hop artists.
Yeah, it's nice.
And maybe it'll become more popular in the States too.
We'll see.
Someday.
Yeah.
You know what? Going back to the things we were talking about a few minutes ago, I was mentioning all this because I've been seeing guys like Steven Tyler from Aerosmith, for example. They started a new tour and they had to cancel after
No problems.
just 2 shows, and Ozzy Osbourne is not able to come back, and he probably never will.
A lot of people, have gotten to a point in their careers, and things are happening to them because of their age. The vocals, it's an acoustic instrument. You can't plug in. Once it goes, it goes. You could do a lot of things, but confronting a live audience of thousands of people and traveling and waking up in different hotels can take effect on your throat and things like that. So maybe that's what's been happening to a lot of these, bands, it's nice to see reunions, but again, they're not as good as they used to be.
Yeah, I guess that being the vocalist is the hardest part of being in a band when you come of age. And drumming comes second. Drumming or is first.
Then the vocalist, guitar player, bass player. Without the drummer, you got shit.
Some vocalists actually don't tune their songs, so they are able to actually sing them.
Yeah.
What does a drummer do?
A drummer just has to keep in shape and play good, and keep rehearsing, playing drums. It's like a sport. A lot of athletes have to exercise. They have to play their sport. You can't stop because you have to continue to condition those muscles that you're using. If you don't, you're not going to be as strong as you were, while you were doing it. But the drummer is the one that keeps the foundation. It keeps the beat, keeps the speed going, and then from there the bass player kicks in, follows the drummer, then the vocalist and guitar player, and whoever's in the band. Without drums, you don't really have a band. What do you do without a drummer? There's no beat.
Yeah, you can always use a computer.
There's no beat, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, but the computer is like, you don't see anybody doing anything, and it sounds phony, and it's just like, there's no feeling. Mm-hmm. It's very sterile. I mean, look, if you're a beginning band and you don't have a drummer, it's great to have a computer that you can program to play drums to, to have a drum beat. Once you learn your song, then when you actually record, that's when you audition drummers for your band. And then he will take over and play that beat. Because you got to play live too. In order to make any kind of name, you got to play live. I mean, you can have 1 hit, 2 hit, just on the internet computer stuff, but people want to see you. They want to see you up there playing the song.
When you do rehearse, do you actually play along some songs, or you?
I play alone in my studio 4 times a week, the whole set that I'm playing tonight. And then I walk out of the studio, get in my car, get back to my home, and then I take a shower. Then I might go out, ride my bike, come back, eat, and then watch a little TV. And I usually I get to sleep about 2 o'clock, 2 a.m. So, I'll watch a interesting movie, and then at that point, I'll just go to sleep, Look forward to the next day.
And when you do that rehearsal, do you actually listen to the songs on your headphones or not?
No,
you just play?
It's all through my brain. I know all the parts, I know everything, I know the speeds, I know the count-offs. So I don't need to have the band there. I just play it myself, just to keep in shape,
And any body aches? For example, after talking to you for an hour or so, I'm gonna stand up and my back is going to kill me, I know. Do you have any body aches? You don't?
No body aches. If you do have a body ache, you gotta live with it. And eventually the body will heal itself. Going to doctors and putting on creams and lotions and patches, that's great, but it's temporary. Just got to let your body work it out. Just work it out, and you'll be okay, you know.
And is it harder for your muscles or your bones to play the drums?
I don't feel anything. You know, it's no, it's like playing a game, like a sport. Afterwards, you just take a hot shower and, you know, chill out, relax your muscles, just calm down, chill out, you know.
And when you're on tour, how do you take care of yourself?
I go right back to the hotel room. I'll talk to some friends over the phone. I'll listen back to what I did on the show, you know, through the phone, and then I'll read some rock and roll books, and then it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and then I'll get to sleep and get up at about 10. You know, 7-8 hours. You know.
Any rock and roll books you've read recently?
There's a good book called Will You Love Me Tomorrow, about the girl groups of the 60s, like the Ronettes, the Shirelles, the Chiffons, all these great bands. That's one book. The Wrecking Crew, great. The Phil Spector biography is really good. Various Beatle books, you know, there must be so many of those. So, you know, I just pick out rock books. The Chuck Berry book is good, really good. Dave Davies' book is good, from the Kinks, and Pete Townshend's book is good. So there's a lot of good things.
You've mentioned Phil Spector a couple of times already. What was it like to work with him and to know him? Because
he was my friend, had a great time. I try to separate his music from his personality. We have always had great times together, and he was a genius, and he created a musical style. He did. He was a genius at 23 years old, 22. And he had 40, 45 people with only 4 tracks in the studio, and he put all that down. He didn't need 48, 64 track. He didn't need a computer. He always made sure all the band members were in one room, and that was the result, those hits, you know. Be My Baby, The Do Run Run, You Lost Our Love and Feeling, you know, all these great songs that'll last forever.
And you've mentioned the Shirelles and the Ronettes. Were you a fan of Motown, R&B, soul, funk?
Yes. Stax, Motown. Love Bernard Purdy. I loved the bass player of the band, Benji Benjamin was great. The Temptations lead singer was one of the best. I love James Brown. I love the rhythm section. I like Donald Duck Dunn. I like all these great session plays, Stephen Cropper. So, you know, all the soul stuff, Sam and Dave, I love it. You know, and the Four Tops, you know.
And when you started to play the drums, were you learning to play the drums, playing along those kind of lines?
Of course, those guys were great. Still, those guys are still great. I mean, Stevie Wonder's songs were great, you know, drumming stuff too, and definitely early Motown. You know, with the Dancing in the Streets, that. And it was always the same drummer on most of the tracks. You could tell by the style. Same thing with Hal Blaine on a lot of the 60s hits. You knew it was him drumming just by the certain style, you know. So
yeah, and many times the same writers doing that many songs, that many hit songs.
Yeah, same writers, and they proved themselves, so they kept using them.
I do love reading music books too, and even if I was aware of that, because when I started to listen to music, bands used to release 1 or 2 albums a year. It's not the same anymore, but it actually amazes me the same, because bands did tour album, 10 years in a row, 15 years in a row.
That's what the Ramones did. We did that for 22 years. But if you want to read a good rock book, you should read my book. You should read my book. It's all about the New York scene, CBGBs, what was going on in New York City at the time, the early punk scene with Richard Hell and the Voidoids, the New York Dolls, Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers, Patti Smith, Blondie, all the good stuff,
And how did you guys did the albums back then? I mean, it was always the same?
In the studio, all together, rhythm, just a rhythm track. And it would take about 2 or 3 takes for me to get the rhythm track. And then Joey would come in later and do the vocals. Mm-hmm. And that was it.
And the songs were already written?
Already written.
Already written.
Rehearsed and written. Mm-hmm. So, if John wanted or thought that there should be some lead guitar on Road to Ruin, certain parts in Rocket to Ride, little things like the little guitar part in I Want to Be Sedated, we would have Ed Stasium do that, who was our producer. So
he did play the solos? Is that what you mean?
What's that?
He did play the guitar solos?
Ed Stasium, yeah.
He did? Oh.
Yeah. And Walter Lurr from the Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers, and we always wanted them to and Daniel Ray, who was one of our producers too. They would play the little lead guitar parts while Johnny was playing rhythm at the same time. So it was needed at that point on the 4th album, instead of just another 3-chord punk album. We needed to advance a little, which we did on Road to Ruin, So we got I Want to Be Sedated, and that just went platinum as a single. We're very happy for that. Very happy to be on the most popular Ramones single, and then Blitzkrieg Bop is second.
So I Want to Be Sedated is the most popular singer?
Is the most downloaded song.
Downloaded?
Yeah. And Blitzkrieg Bop is gold, but I think it will go platinum soon.
And did you actually listen to the first Ramones album when it came out?
Yeah.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, I was with Dee Dee. I was in my apartment on not Little Italy, but near Houston Street, New York City, and came over with the vinyl. It was a vinyl, and I had a pretty good stereo at the time. It wasn't great, but it was okay, and I never heard anything like it.
And you didn't know the guys already?
They knew me. They knew me from coming to my shows at a band I was in called Dust. Mm-hmm. I was in a heavy metal band called Dust 4 years before the first Ramones album came out, and they would come see me play in the Village in New York City. And when I joined the Ramones, they would always tell me, I was in the audience, we love your band, and we used to come see you, and I never knew that. I didn't know them at that point. I knew them later on in late 74, 75, when they formed the Ramones. I'd see them at CBGB's.
And obviously that first Ramones album is such an iconic album.
Right.
Not just because of the music, but because of the album cover and the sound and the image of the band.
The sound, you had all these, the album came out, then you had a lot of these bands out of England that tried to copy it, a lot of bands out of Los Angeles that tried to copy it. But, it's very hard to top or be better than the creator. They created a sound. It's not easy. But out of that came a lot of bands that eventually formed their own style, had their own style of music, They said, let me try something different, trying to be a Ramones band, you know what I mean? So it spread over to Mexico, it spread here, it spread to Brazil, it spread to Japan, it spread to Mexico. So, you know, that first album definitely was a game changer.
And what was your dress code like when that first Ramones album
Looking
came?
back at the Dust album. Leather jacket, jeans, and sneakers. Yeah, I mean, that's all I wore in Brooklyn. That's what you had to wear in Brooklyn. Or else, you know, there would always be some... If you ever saw the movie The Wanderers, not The Warriors, The Wanderers, that's what it was like.
That a gang movie too?
Yeah. Much better than The Warriors. It's called The Wanderers. Really good. Very realistic. You know? So that's what was going on at that time.
And were you a gang member back then?
I could have been, but I didn't want to be. I know a lot of gang guys. I know a lot of you know, the other guys. But I would always find out that one of them got stabbed, or the other one was in the hospital, or the other one lost his eye, or the other one. I didn't want that. You know, I wanted to. I'm not a violent guy. I wanted to eventually just play the drums. That's all. I take out my frustration on the drum.
That's a good way to take out.
You know, it's plus it helps you later on in life to get some kind of occupation instead of going around hurting people and, you know, I'm the greatest. You know what I mean? I'm a tough guy. You know, not into that.
And do you feel that way when you play live?
Yeah.
That you are.
I chill out. I play. You know, you're keeping a beat, you're grooving out. You just want people to have fun. You know, instead of, it's better doing that than to tell people to join gangs. Gangs, you know, you always end up in jail. The police and the authorities will always win when it comes to that. Because the average citizen doesn't want that. They don't want that. Gang members should promote peace amongst each other. You know, just be friends and, you know, get along and do, you know, hang out together and, you know, talk about bikes and life and things like that and try to make things better, you know? And so, I mean, it's nice to have a lot of numbers, you know, that think the same way you do, but after a while you have to meet new people and you get older, you're gonna have families, you're gonna have the children, and you don't want them to go through that. You want them to have friends and be peaceful with other people.
And did you actually have the chance to catch bands like the Pistols and the Clash when they first came to the States?
I toured with the Clash, with Richard Hell and the Voidoids in England. We did 25 or 28 shows together. This is when the Blank Generation came out, and the Clash just signed to CBS, Columbia, and their album came out, and Richard Hell's album came out. But it's funny, the audience wanted to hear Blank Generation, and we were the opening band to the Clash, and they were great guys. And then all the bands in England started playing faster. They started wearing leather jackets. They started putting pins on the leather jackets. And Dee Ramone gave Sid Vicious that American pin he wears on his lapel, the presidential seal. I became friends with Sid when he moved to New York at the Chelsea Hotel. And we started hanging around. And let's see, what else? We always used to just end up after the shows in England in the hotel lobbies and just drink a lot of beer. And then wake up in the morning and get on the tour bus and just go to the next show. You know, and that was a lot of fun.
You've been doing this by yourself for so long already. Now you have your own band, and as far as I know, you play with the same guys all over the world.
Yeah, all over the world. Yeah, they're the best. This is the best band I ever had. I like them. They know the music. They rehearse a lot, They don't do heavy drugs. Occasionally they'll have some wine, glass of wine. And just their first enjoyment is playing their instruments. They don't want to self-destruct. They just want to have a clean life and enjoy playing.
And two of the guys are actually from Argentina. Yeah. So I don't know if you think about it, but you gave those guys and the guys that played with you before, many of them were from Argentina too. And you actually gave them a big chance to do this for a living. Coming from Argentina, as far as you know, it's not that easy here. So you kind of have that power.
Well, I wish them all luck. Some bands have more chemistry than others. So this band has the best chemistry. In Brooklyn, when I was growing up, it wasn't easy either. There was homeless, there were gang fights, there was garbage strikes. Washington, Washington D.C. had a president who didn't like New York City and didn't send us any money to create better roads, cleaner water, to have better highways. He told us to go fuck ourselves. So they didn't send us any money, so we had to rely on ourselves. That's why luckily we were able to play a place like CBGB's.
I actually don't know if you are into rap or not, but back when you guys were starting to play punk rock music, hip hop was becoming a culture in the underground back in New York City. Yeah. So did you have any contact with that kind of scene back then?
I bought Run DMC's first album. I liked it. Obviously, I'm a rock guy, but rap is good because it sends messages to the youth and people. Certain things that are going on in the world that should be questioned. You got to question what's going on around you. It's very important. And that's what rap did. And that's what hip hop did and still does.
And what about disco music? I remember when I was a kid and I started to listen to music, the Bee Gees and ABBA and Village People were very popular back then when I was 9, 10 years old. That's the music, the first music I actually started to listen in. And some of that came from New York too.
Oh yeah.
So did you dig that scene?
I liked some of the songs that were played in discotheques. Don't rock the boat, baby, rock the boat. That one. I like the other. I liked the Shaft song by Isaac Hayes. I liked Superfly because of the musicianship was great. Liked what was the other one? Songs like that I liked, especially from soundtracks. What was the other one? Another good one. In fact, when Village People came out with YMCA, because I used to go to the YMCA to work out, because I couldn't afford to go to a regular gym. I remember being there, but then when the song came out, it brought back memories of going there with my bag over my shoulder on the locker, and I liked it because it had a great chorus. Great chorus. So I'm not going to knock any genre of music. I also like folk music because it sends out a message. So to me, that's important.
And I remember I read about Studio 54. Yeah. That was, the discotheque that most rock pop stars were to. Yeah.
They never let us in there.
That's what I'm.
That's why we went to CBGB's, and we weren't into that glam look and the makeup and the high heel shoes and and all that stuff. We just kept it very simple what we wore, in high school. That was jeans, leather jacket, sneakers. Why? Because we knew that if a fan of ours wanted to dress like us, it wouldn't cost $2,000. It would be just regular price, you know.
Yeah, it's not that easy to get a leather jacket nowadays.
Well,
it's pretty expensive. I mean,
yeah, everything's expensive.
Yeah,
because of COVID, because they have to make up their losses. You know, companies. You know, there are a lot of things that I didn't like. In America, a lot of the government was issuing money to people that needed it. You know, corporations that were floundering, that were going a little into the red, and a lot of the wealthy rock bands took the money, which could have been used for people who needed it. So, you know, unfortunately, that happened. There's a lot of greed. So, you know, that's one thing I didn't like when I found out that a lot of the well-known rock bands that had millions and millions of dollars took the money.
Marky, thank you very much for your time. Always a pleasure. And last one, is there any deep cut, as you already told me that you might be playing tonight in Argentina? Is there any deep cut that you'd love to play but you didn't yet?
We're going to play Sitting in My Room, which is off Pleasant Dreams, and You Sound Like You're Sick, off of Pleasant Dreams. We're going to play Touring. Touring is Never Boring, off of Mondo Bizarro, and and a few other things. You know.
Okay.
So, all right.
Marky Ramone.
Remember, you got to fight for your freedom.